The podcast you're about to hear involves true stories, which may contain graphic content that is not suitable for children. Listener's discretion is advised. This is Esoteric Oddities.
Hey guys!
We're back. We're alive. So
somewhat, kind of, almost. I was saying to Sarah that every beautiful morning that you wake up is a beautiful morning, but it's one beautiful morning you are closer to death. But like, it's optimistic, so just like, live your damn life.
And then you die.
Well, all right. So I found an article. Are you ready for this title?
Yeah.
It is titled, "Woman Who Married a 300-Year-Old Pirate Ghost Reveals They're Splitting Up."
Oh, so sad.
So this is...
Sorry for your loss.
Sorry for your loss, and then you're lost again. So this comes from littlethings.com. Is it a real website? Probably absolutely not, but I'm going to read it anyway. Okay. Oh, the first line really hits home. Breakups are always tough.
I'm so sorry.
One woman is mourning the end of her marriage to a dead, centuries-old pirate. And no, he didn't ghost her. I'm done.
Stop. Who wrote this?
It says, People reports that Amanda Teague, an Irish woman and Jack Sparrow impersonator, held a ceremony to wed the 300-year-old pirate ghost, also named Jack. Early in 2018, Amanda arranged a private ceremony on a boat in international waters off the coast of Ireland so the marriage would be legal. The 45-year-old hired a medium for the ceremony, which was conducted by a it was conducted by a shaman priest. I wish I was somebody on this boat. So less than a year later, Amanda is saying the marriage is over. Okay, you ready for a quote? She quoted this on Facebook.
I love that. Tell me.
She said, quote, "So I feel it's time to let everyone know that my marriage is over," end quote.
Oh, that's it.
The mom of
That's it. That was the tweet.
That's like how, that's it. I mean, I guess that's all anybody's business. Like, we don't really need to be in their unfinished business. That was a ghost joke. The mom of five wrote on her Facebook page, according to the Irish Mirror. Oh, here, there's more. Quote,
Oh, can't wait.
"I will explain all in due, of course, but for now, all I want to say is be very careful when dabbling in spirituality. It's not something to mess with." Do you think the sex was bad?
I think it was non-existent. It's a ghosty.
Ghost dick.
Right on my ghost stick. Ghost stick. I feel like we can make a song. What is that song? I hate it.
Oh,
I want to fucking...
Tana Mojo.
Ugh, it's cringy.
What does that have to do with the ghost dick?
We can make a song like that.
Oh, I love that. Okay, wait, there's more. I'm almost done. Amanda previously explained that she'd met her ghost soulmate in 2014 when he appeared next to her while she was lying in bed. He is dark-skinned and has jet black hair, so he tells me. I told him I wasn't really cool with having casual sex with a spirit, and I wanted us to make a proper commitment to each other. I wanted the big traditional wedding with the white dress. It was very important to me. After revealing news of the divorce, Amanda, who dropped her married name and now goes by Amanda Sparrow Large, wait, ooh, okay, revealed to Inside Edition what prompted the split. Quote, "I wish I never got married to him. I wish I was that healthy person that I was before I met him," she said in her first interview since the announcement. Jack has turned me...
Poor girl.
I'm saying... Oh, Jack has turned what was a beautiful and loving relationship into something that is ugly. According to Amanda, she started being plagued with health issues once she married Jack and said that he was stealing or draining her energy and using her for his own selfish intentions. She's dissolving the marriage and is contemplating an exorcism. Wow, well, at least I'm not that lady, am I right?
Look at that.
If you could marry a ghost, who would it be?
Like Heath Ledger.
Okay. I would say Ernest Hemingway for me. He was hot. And he had a
Every
mustache.
time someone says that, I think of the Ernest, but like the weird one.
Ernest.
Those movies they used to have.
Oh,
yeah, every time.
It's a common question you ask at all the parties. If you could date somebody who was a ghost, marry somebody who's a ghost, who would it be? Let me think of maybe Abe Lincoln, because he was Babe Lincoln.
I don't know. I just don't know. I feel like I have who I want. I can't think of anything.
That's beautiful.
And she's alive.
Oh, and thriving, and her heart is so big.
It is so big. She's a big heart, and she is thriving. Oh.
So I'll be with Ernest Hemingway.
Well, you do that. Thanks.
Oh, my Lord. So I've got a bit of a long story today. So I say, why don't we just jump on into it? I believe you're first, but I truly don't know.
Well, I'm going first.
Okay, perfect.
This is what it is.
I love it.
So the early life of Cameron Hooker offers a few hints of who he is as a person or who he would become. So born in Alturas, California in 1953, he moved around quite a bit with his family, but he was generally recalled by former elementary school classmates as a happy kid who enjoyed making other people laugh. The Hooker family settled down and read what? I know, it's just Hooker every time.
Just the Hooker family. It's just a family of hookers. They travel around by. I love how you're saying hooker like and a hook like, arm, and I'm hooker like
right.
Hooker.
Yeah. I feel
okay.
The Hooker family finally settled down in Red Bluff, California in 1969. Around this time, Cameron's personality underwent a change. He became withdrawn from his family and his friends, and he avoided social activities.
Shit, me too, boy.
Right. And of course, he was not the first teenager to go through an awkward phase.
Right.
And the rest of his high school career passed without any notable incidents. So, like, he didn't like go off the deep end or anything.
Right.
They just noticed that he changed a little bit.
And then he's going to go off the deep end.
Watch as I die.
I cannot tell you. I left a bar because they played that song. Listen, for anybody who stands Lady Gaga, I love Lady
they played
Gaga.
That song at karaoke and I didn't know the words clearly and I still stayed up there.
Okay, wait. Not only did you not know the words, but it was a couple song. It was a woman and a man, and he was serenading her, and Sarah was like, I want to be up here too. And
I'm like, pay attention to me.
And you didn't know the words, and it was on a Sunday. That was on the Lord's Day.
Yeah, and that day, we turned back our clocks, and we lost an hour of sleep, and the whole night I thought I was gaining an hour.
Yeah, no. I confidently went to bed that night thinking I would be slept for work.
Same.
Is that a cat?
Yeah, probably. There's a lot around here, and we have like 3 cats in this house.
That's true.
Pick one.
We're recording for the first time in Sarah's new place.
Yeah. So funny story. Side note. My cat.
Is it funny?
It's about to be when I knock you out.
Oh shit!
See, that made you laugh. Anyway. So my cat isn't used to other cats. He's been literally like by himself his whole entire life. So bringing him here, I was really anxious, and I was like, it's not gonna work out
because there's already 2 cats that are living here.
Right. Oh, I was getting to that. So like Jonathan said, my roommate has 2 cats. So the first night he got here, he was like growling at everything, like even like a fucking cabinet opening he would growl at.
Yeah, it was but his hair wasn't like...
Yeah,
I think he was just like nervous.
Yeah.
He wasn't like scared.
And there was a lot of people here, so he was probably like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, there was a lot of loud music and drugs.
Yeah, we love that. So we had to lock our cats in the room just so he could be out for 2 days just smelling. And then he went in the room, and then her cats came out. And then one day we were just like, let's just like let them out. It's been like a couple of days. They both know that each other's here. Like, let's let them out to see what happens. And surprisingly, they're getting along really well, and we thought it was going to take months.
Yeah, they're kind of just minding their own business.
Yeah, but I was scared for Charlie, and it's like, it's Marley that is a bully. He like swats Charlie, and Charlie's like, okay, I'll just go over here and lay down. Like, he doesn't understand how to play.
Ramona. Ramona's kind of a BITC.
Right, and it's Marley.
Okay. See, that's surprising because, okay, you know what? We're not going to talk about the cats that you guys don't know of.
So the cat
cast. I love that. That's 105,000% taken.
Yeah, but it's okay. Anyway, back to the hookers.
I was just going to say I love that. You know, this soda has real fruit in it. I have weird things stuck in my tooth.
Oh, God, I didn't know that. I'm sorry I'm putting you through that. Ooh, I love that.
Do you want to taste it?
Yeah.
Came out of my bicuspid.
So it wasn't until Cameron met his future wife, Janice, that his darker side came out. Janice was only 15 when she met the 19-year-old Cameron Hooker, who was then working at a lumber mill. Janice was insecure and admitted that no matter how good or rotten a guy was to me, I just kind of latched onto him. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
She remembered Cameron Hooker as tall, nice, and good-looking, and she was delighted by the interest of an older boy.
Oh, we love an older man.
Janice later describes herself as the kind of person who gave in so someone would love her. When Hooker asked if he could...
That's not a good trait to have, honey.
Right. Well, it gets dark.
Oh, God.
When Hooker asked if he could suspend her from a tree by leather handcuffs,
Oh.
something that he claimed he had done to other girlfriends, she complied. Although the experience hurt and frightened Janice, Hooker was so affectionate afterward that she managed to basically, like, kind of teach herself to, like, be okay with the beatings. Basically, it's BDSM.
From a tree?
Yeah.
What about bugs? Like bug bites, crawling in
She
your
did
crevices?
not care. And they were obviously, like, doing stuff, so she was just, like, out in the open having a good old time.
I need more details. Like, I need to, like, what are they in the suburbs? Like, is there kids jumping on the trampoline next door? Like,
They're in
what's
Red
good
Bluff,
with it?
California.
Okay, I will have to look up Red Bluff, California.
As their relationship progressed, so did the violence Hooker performed on Janice. Now, it's not like real violence. It's just like BDSM
Right.
type stuff.
Right. Okay, but there is the gray line. Like, if she's super submissive.
He's a sadomasochist.
Right. So that's when I think maybe
Sorry.
Who the fuck was it who said it was sex and money? Was it you?
Probably.
I think it was you.
I don't know
and I was
anything
like,
ever.
Honeybee. But there is the gray line in between, like, calling it real like violence, because if he knows what he's doing and then manipulating her because she's so submissive, then it can become, I don't know. Did they have a safe word?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
I feel like a go-to safe word is always SpongeBob.
No, pineapple.
Pineapple. Oh my God.
Same
Under
thing.
the sea.
Yeah.
That was our safe word when we would be on the beach. I would go with Gabby's family to the beach, and they didn't have beach tags. So if somebody said SpongeBob, you run to the water so they don't have to check you for tags.
Wait, what tags?
Like beach tags. So you had to, like, pay to get on the beach.
Oh, that's fucked.
It wasn't my rules.
No, it's fucked that you have to pay to get on the beach.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, you gotta pay to keep the beaches nice. Let's get back to the hookers.
Okay, so Cameron Hooker and Janice got married in 1975. The sadomasochist acts had expanded to include whippings, choking, underwater submersions, to the point where Cameron almost killed Janice.
Oh my God. In which one? Underwater?
Yeah.
No.
Janice later quotes that although she did not enjoy the act, she continued to love Cameron and above all, desired to have a child with him. The same year, so 1975.
Oh my God. Ours takes place. Wow. Ours were neighbors.
Oh, that's so cool. This story didn't tell me any specific dates, just years, but.
Well, the end of my story is in, like, 1975.
Oh. The same year that they were married, Cameron and Janice came to the agreement that they could have a child if Cameron could take a slave girl.
Oh, no. Yep.
Janice hoped that the slave girl would give her husband a different outlet for his painful fantasies on the condition that he never had intercourse with the girl.
Oh. Okay.
So Janice gave birth to a daughter about a year later in 1977. Are you ready for the story to unfold?
I thought it was already unfold. Okay,
no.
Okay. I'll get my iron out so we can unfold it. That was a fabric joke.
We didn't do the story, right?
I don't think so.
All right. Are you ready?
I guess. I don't have a choice. Let's go.
All right. In 1977, 20-year-old Colleen Stan was hitchhiking from her hometown of Eugene, Oregon, to Northern California.
Oregon or Oregon?
I always say Oregon.
Origami.
Because it's G-O-N. Gone.
It's gone, bitch. It's Oregon. It's not Ora here. We're so stupid. Like, how do people listen to us?
I don't know. I couldn't find any background story on this Colleen girl.
Okay.
I probably honestly didn't dig enough. I probably could have found
okay.
it. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. Next time you'll get your shovel and pail and really dig in there.
I will. You know, it's all a learning experience.
I
Anyways, Colleen considered herself an expert hitchhiker, whatever that fucking means. Like, I just feel like it's just like, why would you trust anybody?
She's got a great thumb.
I feel this way about Uber. I'm like, sometimes I'll be really, really high leaving a friend's house, and I'm like, I don't know this person. I'm in their car. I have no control, and they're just taking me wherever.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It is scary. Like that one girl who got into the car who thought it was the Uber.
See?
Y'all gotta be careful. Check those license plates. I always check, and I'm like, hi, who are you here for? Let them say your name first.
Right. Because if you say for Sarah, they're just like, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So Colleen was an expert hitchhiker. Why can't I speak?
And what I'm still like, I would love to hear Colleen.
Yeah.
Maybe she has like an acrylic nail that's really long.
And she's like,
oh, look at this hitchhike.
She had already turned down 2 rides that day.
Oh, she turned them down.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe she just has, maybe she's saying she's an expert hitchhiker as in she has a good sense of like if the people are fucking weirdos or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
However, when a blue van pulled up in Red Bluff, California, Stan saw that it was being driven by a man who had his wife in the passenger seat and a baby in the back seat. She thought since they were a young couple with a child, they seemed like a safe family.
Right.
And she accepted the ride.
Oh no. Not with the hookers. They didn't get married, did they? They just had a baby together.
No, they got married.
Oh, they got married. You don't have to scroll up. You're gonna lose your place.
Oh.
I believe you though. They got married.
1975.
1975. I now pronounce you the hookers.
All right. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
The man was 23-year-old Cameron Hooker and his wife, who was 19 at the time, Janice Hooker. So, mind you, he's 23, she's 19.
Oh my God.
And as it turns out, they had been actively looking for a hitchhiker to kidnap. Cameron was a lumber mill worker, and he had intense bondage fantasies.
I already knew that part.
Shortly after Colleen got into the van, I'm going to be calling her Stan and Colleen. Just because
okay.
Her last name is Stan. Her
Okay.
first name is Colleen. Cameron veered off the road and into a remote area. That's when he held a knife to her neck and forced her into a head box that weighed 20 pounds.
What's a head box?
Do you want to see?
Oh my God. Should I just look it up myself?
Yeah, this is crazy. Look up.
Wait, hold on.
I don't know.
Oh my God. Is it like,
Just look up Colleen Stan head box, but don't look up anything else.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's scary. That's some magician shit. Oh my God.
Wait
That's
until you hear
That's like
the
Saw.
rest.
Are you just going to read me the plot of Saw?
No.
You know the part where the girl has like the razor blades and she has to put her wrists up into it?
Yeah, that's fucked.
I saw a meme on Tumblr that was like when you put your finger into the lid of a McDonald's cup and like you go to pull it out and it's the same thing. Oh, you guys.
I always felt like that when I tried to
stick your tongue in it.
No, stick my hand in my
garbage disposal?
Yeah, like
Fuck
I would
no.
feel something in there, so I'd have to like pick it up, and I was like, "This shit's gonna turn on. My hand's gonna get
No.
chopped off."
You want to know how badly I don't want to do that? When that happened to my last garbage disposal, I dropped $150 and just bought a new garbage disposal because I am not fishing in there for nobody, no
I
how.
cannot. That's so funny.
I did. I called my dad. I was like, Dad, can you help me put this in? I don't know how to do it.
I don't know how to do nothing.
Yeah, and then it was a shot glass because someone I used to know was a fucking idiot and put a shot glass on it. And then,
What an idiot.
And then when you turn it on and you hear the noise, I was like,
Yeah, mine is broken right now, but I'm not telling my landlord because fuck her.
yeah.
Story of it coming. I'm gathering all my evidence.
Yeah,
and
gather it.
we're gonna do one single podcast on this place.
Are we dedicating a whole podcast to that?
No, but it'll be like 15 minutes long.
Okay,
of
perfect.
shit.
We'll include it very, very soon. We definitely need to get lawyers involved for that shit because we are treading in some murky, weird ass, sketchy fucking waters with that story. So make sure you guys stay subscribed. Okay, back to the Hooker family.
Yeah. So
She had a head box that was 20 pounds.
yeah. So the head box confined her. The head box confined only her head, and it blocked out sound and light and prevented the flow of fresh air. So she was literally only breathing in her air.
Oh no, that's like suffocation.
Basically, low key, like very
I don't
lightly.
know. I don't know how people sleep under their covers like that. Like
Nah does that.
Mark does that too. I'm like, how are you not suffocating?
Literally.
I'm gonna auto tune that in post.
I love that. You better.
I'm
And if
not
it
gonna
doesn't,
do that.
I'm gonna be mad.
Sue me.
The car eventually drove to a house where Stan was led downstairs to a cellar and subjected to horrifying forms of torture. She was tied to the ceiling by her wrists and then
Oh my
beaten,
God.
electrocuted, whipped, and burned. And then Cameron and Janice had sex underneath her while she hung
Oh
by
my
the
God.
sand.
Now that is this real?
Yes.
How does
There's a documentary on this. It came out in 2016.
Oh my God. So every time I hear a fucked up story like this, I'm like, this is it.
Where was I?
I'm like, this is it. I've heard it all. And then something else happens. And I'm like, this happens like 30 years before I was born. How have I never heard of this? How does so much crazy... And that's just... Like, it just blows my mind how much crazy shit happens because my story happened around the same time as you. And I never heard of this one either.
I never heard of this one either. And
I never heard of this one either.
On it.
What?
We should watch the documentary after
Oh my God,
this.
we should. Mine was a 6-part documentary. Let's do that next.
Okay.
They're 40 minutes each, though. So, like,
Let's do it.
You really have to...
Initially, the demented couple had an agreement that concluded that Cameron wasn't allowed to engage in sexual activity with the slave girl. Yeah, let's not forget that.
Okay.
Instead, she was forced to watch the couple have sex after they abused her.
Oh no, this isn't BDSM. This is fucked up, psychopathic, manipulative shit.
Yeah. So later on, this agreement will change, and Cameron started incorporating rape into its forms of torture.
Oh my God.
I'll get into that.
Oh God. Okay, I guess it's fair warning now. I guess we'll do trigger warning.
Sorry.
For anything.
I always forget.
No, it's okay. I just gonna cover all bases. If you're not interested, watch a different episode. Listen, you can't watch this. Thank God for that.
I feel like all of our episodes are fucked up. We're a true crime pod.
True crime girls.
The Hooker family moved into a mobile home in Red Bluff, California during this time period and took Colleen with them. They confined her in a wooden box underneath their waterbed.
Oh no.
Janice would actually...
You know what's the worst part about that? Waterbeds are awful for your back. I'm kidding. That's fucked up. But seriously, oh my God, do you want to know how fucked up I was the first day I got to Iceland? I was so fucked up on you saw how many pharmaceuticals I was on. Shouldn't have drank that day, but I did. I was running on maybe...
And you had to sleep in a waterbed?
I was awake. Hold on, wait. I was awake for, I think by the time my head hit a pillow, it was 36 consecutive hours of being awake and conscious. I lie in my bed and I'm like, oh my fucking God, I can't believe this is waterbed. Wake up. My brother's like, no, this is not a waterbed. You were just really fucked up when you laid down.
Oh,
it wasn't a waterbed. I could have sworn it was like I went like this. And
I can't believe this is a waterbed. I hate you.
I was like, I shared a room with Tom and I was like, Tom, can you believe they're putting us on a waterbed? And he's like,
it's not.
He's like, mine's not, but he was on a futon. So I was like, well, mine is because I'm the king of the room.
Yeah, literally.
So anyway, it wasn't really a waterbed. I don't think I've ever successfully laid in a waterbed before.
My mom's one friend had a waterbed.
Did you try to sneak in and sleep on it while she was sleeping?
I hate that shit.
What, sneaking into other people's bedrooms and trying to sleep on their bed?
Yeah, exactly that.
Who is honking their horn? Don't they know we're recording a podcast? That's so rude.
That's so rude.
Okay.
So Janice would eventually give birth to their second daughter on that bed while Colleen was underneath it in 1978.
Oh my God. So who was delivering the baby? Cameron?
Probably them, because they're crazy.
Just go ahead and pull it on out. Oh my God. How do you do that? How do people do that? You got a staple gun? You got a sewing kit? What are you going to do with her innards are basically falling out? You know her taint ripped her asshole to her vag.
Right.
Sorry.
Anyway, so Colleen Stan was kept in a coffin-like wooden box underneath the Hooker's bed for up to 23 hours a day. The documentary is called The Girl in the Box because that's what they eventually started calling her after the story came out.
Oh God. Oh no.
Look up the box.
I can't. I don't want to ruin the story like you.
How did I ruin the story?
No, you like to ruin the story. When we did the cheerleaders episode, you were like, I want to look up everything. I said, well, don't look
I didn't look it up.
Yeah, because I yelled at you. And I'll do it again.
You already do. Anyway.
Now suck my big toe.
The couple had... I wish y'all could have just saw what I did.
She had the sassy neck roll.
Because I was ached. Okay. The couple had 2 young daughters who didn't realize Stan was being kept against her will and didn't know that she was living in the house. For an hour or 2 a day, the girl in the box would clean and babysit the children.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm. Whoa, that's fucked up. I hope she gets away. I really meant that. I didn't mean it to sound like that.
So Colleen is quoted saying, anytime I was taken out of the box, I never knew what to expect. Fear of the unknown was always with me as I was kept in the dark, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, that's very true. I can only imagine like what solitary confinement in a coffin would do
under a fucking waterbed for 23 hours a day.
Oh, I think at that point I'd jet I'm not judging her at all, but for her choices. But I'd be like, either I'm gonna get the fuck out of here, or they're gonna kill me, or I don't care. At this point, you think you're gonna keep me in that dusty, crusty fucking box?
While you got another thing coming. You got another storm coming. So, although Colleen was subjected to regular beatings and rape, she didn't consider her torture to be the worst aspect of her confinement.
I'm scared.
What terrified her even more was Cameron's claim that he was a member of a satanic organization called The Company. She was told that the company was a powerful organization who watched over her and had her family's home bugged.
I'd be like, prove it, bitch.
Right. I'd be like, where's the proof?
Show me the Carfax.
Okay. More than anything, Stan feared an escape attempt would cause the company to harm her family. Does your microphone smell weird? Yeah, like your basement.
Oh, sorry about that.
I'm not. Oh, it doesn't anymore. It smells like air freshener.
Oh, that's weird. There was literally a pair of like dirty underwear in the bag with them.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
I licked the microphone. So Colleen remained in captivity and even went on to sign a contract stating that she was the hooker's slave.
Oh, girl. They had her fucked up.
Yeah.
They had her convinced,
right.
Too. I'm sorry. How old was she when they kidnapped her? Do you know? You don't have to scroll. I'm so bad. You say the details and it just...
She was 20.
Goes in one ear
out
the other.
That was in 1977.
No. Okay, so now
point,
she's a little bit older than that. But fuck, dude.
It was 1978, so...
21.
Yep.
Shit. He had her convinced. See, that's not BDSM. That is on another level.
Right? In January 1978, Cameron Hooker forced Colleen to sign a document that said she was his slave. She further testified that Cameron had been leading her to believe he was a member of a powerful organization called The Company. If she tried to escape, this organization would hurt her
family because it was bugged. Bitch, right. The fucking company was probably PepsiCo. He
also began referring to her as K and made her call him Master.
Oh no. I bet the company was Amazon Echo.
Honestly.
Alexa, I'm on to... Is she here? She popped in. Fuck, I forgot to bring that for you.
Oh, that's okay.
You guys, I have an Alexa and I refuse... I got it for Christmas and I'm giving it to her. No, I'm not plugging it into my wall in my house.
My house. It's
I already have ghosts.
Me and my girlfriend fuck a lot.
I don't care. Perfect.
You say some dirty things.
The government's gonna love that.
Sorry, babe.
I don't need them listening to...
She's very modest.
Everything I say. I love how you're like, yeah, we're gonna fuck, and I'm like, the government will
doesn't
kill
care.
me. They are coming after me because I know Britney Spears is an Illuminati.
No,
puppet.
She's a clone.
You're a clone. Oh, I'm sorry, clown. Get those mixed up. So your story?
I'm about to smack that microphone off your fucking lip. Okay?
Please don't. I need these lips for later.
Just kidding. I can't stand myself. Like, this is like a very terrifying, sad story, and I'm over here fucking joking.
That's how we're coping. This is how we cope.
Honestly, Sam, I really cope by making jokes that I don't think are funny, but I convince myself to laugh.
How you gotta survive the day. Okay, back to the girl in the box who is now being referred to by an initial, and he's being referred to as Master.
So, like I said before, Colleen was terrified of the company, and Cameron reinforced this fear with her daily. She would comply with his orders to avoid his sadistic punishments, and he would eventually allow her to leave the house to jog or work in the yard. She was also responsible for caring for Hooker's children, and was enlisted to help Cameron build an underground dungeon where he kept more slaves.
Oh, whoa. Wait, there's going to be more?
Just wait. God.
But he let her jog.
Yeah, it's weird. That's why I feel like she had Stockholm Syndrome. If y'all didn't know, that's the topic. Because he would eventually, let her...
Go do things?
Yeah, so she was like, well, I guess he's not that bad. You know how people do that.
Okay.
But regardless of him letting her jog, she was imprisoned by the fear of the company. So even when she had access to an open door or phone, she didn't seek help.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. So by complying with Cameron and his wishes, Stan continuously earned more and more freedom. She was allowed to work in the garden and go for jogs, like I said before. In 1981, she was even allowed to visit her family. Cameron accompanied her, and she said that
this is my husband or my boyfriend. Mm-hmm. Oh God.
Her family took a happy-looking photo of the pair, but her lack of communication and money made them believe that she was in a cult. However, they didn't want to press her and pressure her, as they were scared it would cause her to disappear for good. Now she also had on raggedy clothes, like she didn't look put together.
Wait, is that picture? Mm-hmm. We can see it. Mm-hmm. That scares the shit out of me.
You know, I got that shit.
Okay. That's so scary because you look at the picture and I feel like it would look normal, but then you know what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like sometimes I could look at pictures and see like, ooh, this person is like going through some shit. Has a bad
aura.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember when I made you sit there for like 2 hours and I said, I'm going to find your aura. And I did. And it was yellow.
I'll never forget. According to Colleen, Cameron began to worry that he'd given her too much freedom after the visit, so he took her home and locked her in the box underneath a waterbed. She then stayed in the box for 3 years.
What? 3 fucking years?
He would only take her out to feed, rape, torture.
Oh my God.
After his kids were in bed. Her bodily functions were dealt with by using a bedpan, which she had to position underneath herself using her feet. She wasn't allowed to make any noise, and she had to lie still in the dark with little air.
That's so fucked up. I wonder like what her muscles looked like at that point.
Oh, I'm gonna get there.
Oh, no. Because if you don't engage those muscles even to like sit up straight or walk.
You're just like laying in the fucking box for 3 years.
Oh, the bed sores. I've literally been sitting in this seat for 35 minutes.
And I want to die.
Yeah.
It's so uncomfortable. Colleen recalled that summers were especially harsh because the temperature in the box could rise above 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
24/7.
Yep. So, in total, Colleen Stan was kept captive for 7 years, from 1977 to 1984.
Oh my God.
After being locked in the box for 3 years, Cameron reintroduced Stan to the neighbors and his children in 1983. He even allowed her to get a job at a hotel as a maid.
Oh my God.
Towards the end of that 7-year span, Cameron stated that he wanted Stan as a second wife. This didn't go well for his wife, Janice.
Oh, yeah, no shit. Janice, you should have been out.
In August 1984, Janice had confessed to Colleen that Cameron tortured and brainwashed her since they started dating each other, and that she had developed denial techniques and compartmentalized that aspect of her life. After this turning point, Janice revealed to Colleen that Cameron was not a part of the company and helped her escape.
Oh, so this is the first time she's hearing that shit was bullshit?
Yes. So in the beginning, Janice asked Colleen not to say anything because she was convinced that her husband could change.
Right.
And be like rehabilitated, but then she realized he was unsavable, and Janice reported her husband to the police herself.
Yes, Janice. I'm still mad at you because you've let this shit happen.
So, but in order to get immunity, Janice had to basically comply with the FBI, and it helped Colleen's case.
Okay.
So, but that's why.
So is Colleen still at the house?
No, she escaped. Janice helped her get a bus ticket.
She's like, gone, girl.
She's out. And then Janice was like, please don't say anything. I think he could change. And Colleen's like, whatever the fuck. I just want to get out of here.
Deuces. Oh my God, that has to be so scary. I'd be so paranoid.
Right?
I would have, oh my God.
There's something like,
Talk about PTSD, this poor woman.
Okay, so Cameron Hooker was charged with sexual assault and kidnapping using a knife at the trial. Janice testified against him for full immunity, like I said before. Colleen Stan's experience was described as unparalleled in FBI history.
That's all he was charged for?
He was found guilty and given consecutive terms totaling 104-year sentence in 2015. And he was denied parole each time.
Wait, his court hearing was in 2015.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? That's so long.
Yeah, but he was probably in there for
a long time.
I want to know how they caught him. In my head, they like came up to his fucking trailer home, and he's just like boom, boom, boom.
So, Colleen Stan suffered chronic back and shoulder pain as a result of her confinement in the box. When she
sure.
returned home, she received extensive therapy and eventually married and had a daughter of her own. She joined an organization committed to helping abused women and earned a degree in accounting. Colleen and Janice both changed their names and continue to reside in California. However, they do not communicate with each other because why the fuck would you?
Right? Oh my God. That could literally, hi, if you're living in Bluffington, New Mexico,
Red
what
Bluff,
is this?
California.
Red Bluff, New Mexico, California?
California.
This could be your neighbor.
Yeah.
This could be the person ringing you up at the McDonald's. So because she helped out the FBI.
She got out for free, which is crazy to me because I'm like, you still, like, you agreed to those terms and let your husband have a slave girl.
That's what I'm saying is she didn't do anything to stop it.
Exactly.
So she's guilty.
Well, don't people fucking get, they still get jail time for that, being a part of the crime?
Yeah.
She must
Yeah,
have,
like
she
that-
must have gave some good immunity.
The female Manson, remember that girl I talked about?
Yeah.
Who she didn't kill anybody, but she helped like clean up the mess, and she got more time. But that was also because she like she escaped prison and embarrassed
okay.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
That was a crazy story. Okay, sorry, back to
So,
you.
Colleen told reporters that she learned that she could go anywhere in her mind. It's similar to Janice's compartmentalization. Y'all know what I meant. She said, you just remove yourself from the real situation going on and you can go anywhere else. That's really sad. So I have some other notes. Are you ready?
Yeah.
So the first girl to fall victim to this sick compromise between Cameron Hooker and Janice Hooker was Marie Elizabeth Spanhank. I didn't want to mention it because then it would have
Ruined
everything. She was nicknamed Marlise. She was last seen in Chicago. Just kidding. In Chico, California on January 31st, 1976. She was just 19 when she was spotted by Cameron and Janice Hooker walking along Mangrove Avenue. Her body has never been found, but Janice told police years later that they offered the girl a ride and she accepted. They drove her to a destination on Rio Linda Avenue, but as she tried to get out, Cameron grabbed her by the wrist and yanked her back in the car. But that was all that was reported. So they took her to their home and strung her up from the rafters in the basement. Cameron tortured her, shot her in the abdomen with a pellet gun, and then strangled her to death. She was their captive for only one day. Janice says that they buried her body near Layson Park in their hometown, but authorities have never been able to locate the remains. This occurred just over a year before they abducted Colleen, but it was already clear that Cameron was dangerous and fucking gross.
I'm looking at the picture now of Colleen with Cameron.
Isn't it fucking crazy?
She's like hugging on him. Oh my God. I have chills. Disgusting. He's not even cute. Oh my God.
They never are they?
I want to call the police right now. That's so fucked up. Is he still alive in jail? Well, I hope he's rotting. And I hope he's having an awful fucking time.
I almost ruined the plot for the bonus episode because I got something mixed up.
Oh, you little bitch.
You little bitch.
You little bitch.
I think he is still alive, but he's in jail.
Oh my God, fly.
Yeah, hello? Ew, I'm so sorry. Oh no. Drink your drink.
A literal fly just flew down my esophagi.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay, but wow, that shook me. So that's the story. I can't believe I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it either, and I was like, huh?
I mean, you gotta think of, like, as fucked up as it is, like human trafficking, sex trafficking,
Right.
all over the world. Like, this type of shit happens.
Yeah.
There's people right now as we record this,
Yeah,
and as
getting
you listen to
trafficked.
this, like, yeah, in situations where they're stuck and can't get out. And I know it's different, but like, fuck, like, you don't know how many people are living like this right now, or how
Right.
many people have lived like this. Think about all those people who are missing.
Literally. Like, where do
And
they
how,
go?
yeah, like, either they're dead or they're under somebody's waterbed.
That's so crazy.
Oh, it's disgusting. I fucking hate that guy. I'm just pissed at that. What's her name? She doesn't even deserve her name to be
Janice.
said. Yeah. Janice Ian has a
Yeah.
big lesbian crush on you.
She's like, yeah, my...
I hate that. That's so fucking annoying. Okay, so is it my turn? It's my turn. All right, y'all. So this is one of the most unpredictable, twisty-turny stories that I have brought to the podcast. Now, a lot of you probably have heard of this. I had no clue when before I had done my research for it. I was actually going to do this. I think it was last summer when we were recording, but I chose not to do it. And it was just like one of those things that was saved on.
Oh, yeah.
I kept pushing it back because it was like a lot to do research on. But I asked my mom if she remembered if this, like when this happened. And my mom was like, oh shit, do I remember? So
Oh, shit, yes. You got an insider.
this is the bizarre tale of Patty Hearst. Have you heard of?
First. That sounds familiar, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm going to turn off the air. It's getting cold.
Okay.
Do you agree?
Sure. All right. So, by the early 1900s, William Randolph Hearst owned dozens of newspaper companies that published daily. So, through many of these publishings, he used them, for political and economical power, which he gained. And by the 1920s, William Hearst was a celebrity.
Oh, God.
Not in the common way that we think of celebrities now, but everybody knew him. And, he was even friends with Charlie Chaplin. So that's how you know you made it.
Okay.
Orson Welles' Citizen Kane. Have you seen it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, my Lord. Anybody who goes to film school or like is in any type of writing, you're pretty much forced to watch that film. But it was actually written and primarily based off of the life story of William Hearst. Okay. And that movie has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'll let you know.
What is it called again?
Citizen Kane.
Okay.
I don't think you would enjoy it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll just erase it from my mind. Done. What is it called? Just
Citizen
kidding.
Kane. Ooh, you had me, you little trickster.
Look at that.
So William's son, Randy, had married a woman named Catherine. And with the Hearst media fortune, the couple lived in a mansion in Hillsborough, California, and they had 5 daughters.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Patty Hearst was born Patricia Campbell Hearst on February 20th, 1954 in Los Angeles, California, and she was the third of the 5 daughters. In her young childhood, Patty became Randy's favorite, and he treated her more like a quote-unquote son, not trying to like gender binary anybody, but, the stereotypical, he took her out to fish, he taught her how to hunt with a gun and all that shit. Patty's relationship with her mother was a lot different. Her mother, Catherine, was a high society type. Again, these people were rich. You will hear how the people in politics that they're friends with. But Catherine wanted Patty to follow in her footsteps. But Patty rebelled from that image, and the friction between them would only grow from there. Oh boy, does it ever. Right. So in 1972, Patty Hearst was a sophomore at the Crystal Springs, which was a small private girls' school. Private school girl. Jamaican private school girl.
We love that.
I loved that show. Remember that?
What was her boyfriend's name?
She had 2. No, she had the one in the soccer player. I don't remember.
Oh, damn it.
Anyway, so she went to this private school. She was a sophomore in high school. And there was a 23-year-old named Stephen Weed. And he was a teacher. He taught... Are you laughing because it's weed?
Yeah.
But drugs are funny. They're not fucking funny. Look what they've done to my life.
Ooh.
Look what they've done.
Someone's a little sensitive.
So... fuck. Stephen Weed, he taught geometry and guitar. Patty attended guitar classes but didn't seem to have a passion for it. Yet she showed up to class early and stayed behind late.
Look at that.
One day she showed up to his house for math tutoring, and over the course of a few weeks, the two fell in love.
Look at that. Is she in high school?
Yes, and he's 23.
Yeah,
they often took road trips together, and Patty began studying art history. 2.5 years later, they announced their marriage engagement in a newspaper, a move they would later regret. So remember that happened.
Right.
Patty's father didn't mind, but Catherine, Patty's mother, did. She didn't show it, but Steve knew that Catherine Hearst did not approve of their engagement. So around this time, Patty attended Menlo College at the University of California at Berkeley and moved in with her it's fiance, John. Fiance. Oh my God. John, figure out how to edit that out and make it better. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed.
No,
so
you're
annoying.
so fine.
I'm not dyslexic. I probably am. So she moved in with her Steve,
Love that.
near the university's campus. Now, before I go on, I have to paint the picture for you of what Berkeley was like at this time. Bitch, it was radical. There were constantly riots, and the campus was a massive melting pot of young people who wanted a bright future. but thought the only way to a revolution was through riots and violent movements.
Yikes.
So this was the 70s. Keep this in mind. Around this time, there was the Watergate scandal, which led to the first presidential resignation. There was a racial divide with the police and the black community. There was also a war in Vietnam, which many students had fought in and had seen firsthand. And here's a fun little fucked up statistic. In the early to mid 1970s, there were around 2,000 political bombings a year in the United States.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and it seems like such a big number, and it's crazy and fucked up that shit still happens today.
Also,
but
it's crazy and fucked up that no one knows.
Right,
like that's not like a more known fact.
Not a lot of it was covered in the media.
Of course it wasn't.
Yeah. So at the same time, the students at Berkeley thought that they could make major changes starting in prison. So not necessarily like the students themselves wanted to get arrested and be imprisoned, but they would visit the prisoners who were locked up, because at the time they viewed every prisoner basically who filled up the nearby prison. They viewed everybody who was locked up there as like a radical movement leader, because most of them were, think about it. There's riots. People are trying to start a change. People get arrested and thrown into the local jail. So that's kind of how they're looking at it. They're not looking at it as like the usual prisoners just in any prison.
Right.
You know the deal. So, to the rest of the United States, the Berkeley students were viewed as enemies in the country, and it was not good. It was not looking good for anybody, and a lot of it was not televised. They were trying to like suppress it and be like, hey, let's not make this look really bad, which only like infuriated the Berkeley kids even more.
Right, because they're like, wait, now what's going on?
Right. So, while all this was going on at Berkeley, neither Patty nor Steve were involved or interested in politics at all. In early February of 1974, a couple knocked on the door of Patty and Steve's two-story townhouse. When Steve answered the door, the couple asked if they had a room for rent or if they knew any neighbors who had rooms for rent. Steve politely said no. He was like, why don't you go look at the school bulletin board? It's on campus. You can probably get better information there.
Who knocks on the door like, hey, can I move in here?
Well, it was 1974, and they were like younger, and everybody, I don't know, were doing drugs, and they were like, yes, free speech, free sex, free Meek Mill. 3 days later, on February 4th, 1974, Patty, who was now 19 years old, was sitting at home again with Steve. They had just finished up eating dinner, and they were watching the rest of a television show before preparing to study when there was another knock on their door. Patty was finishing up some dishes in the kitchen sink the next room over, and could only overhear what a woman was saying to Steve at the front door. The woman seemed very apologetic, something about how she had sideswiped a car that was in the street, and she was worried that it belonged to whoever lived in that house. Steve was like, no, that's not our car. And the girl was like, oh my God, okay, well, can I come in and use your phone? And that's when Steve was like, yeah, sure, you can come in and use my phone. Remember, nobody had phones back then, 1974. Right. And that's when two men stepped from behind the girl and entered the house carrying machine guns. Immediately, they hit Steve, yelling, get your face on the floor. The men kicked Steve hard with the bottoms of their boots, and they left him laying there in the living room near the front door. In the kitchen, the woman forced Patty to the ground, where she was blindfolded, bound, and gagged. So now there's two men and one woman who are in this house running amok, okay? Aiming their guns at Steve, they demanded to know where the safe was in the house. Well, the truth was, there was no fucking safe in the house.
Yeah.
But they knew that Patty Hearst lived there, and they were like, she's an heiress, she's a millionaire. Where the fuck is the safe? Where the fuck is the money? Steve was like, we don't have a safe, I swear. He was like, you can take anything you want, just please don't harm anyone. And the one man's response was to kick him in the face. Oh, no. That's when the female said, they've seen our faces, we have to get rid of them. One of the men grabbed an empty wine bottle off a nearby table and began smashing it over Steve's head over and over and over again until blood ran into Steve's eyes.
What the fuck?
But still, he jumped up, making as much noise as he could, banging furniture into walls, knocking things over, and screaming, hoping that somebody, any neighbor, would hear.
Right.
Then Steve ran out the back door to the neighbor's house. He banged on their siding, their windows, their door, but nobody answered.
Yo.
And when Steve went back into the house, the three strangers, along with Patty, were gone. That's when he heard multiple machine gun rounds fire off out front of the house, and he got down. An ambulance arrived, and Steve was rushed to the hospital for treatment, but Patty was gone. The millionaire heiress was gone. And the media frenzy started. The moment Steve had been released from the hospital, he was brought by police to the Hearst mansion. And the front yard of their gated multi-million-dollar home was now home to hundreds of reporters. Their house was when I say a mansion, I mean, bitch, it was a mansion. It looks like a political building, like white pillars and all. So
what did her dad? What did the?
It was her grandfather who ran. He owns pretty much every newspaper that came out of California, which in then part is like all the companies below that and stuff. So that was her grandfather. Okay. So her dad's dad.
Yeah.
So Steve comes in and they pretty much put him in front of the podium and they're just like, what the fuck happened?
Not the podium.
So he's standing at this podium and he announced that the attack was very calculated. And you can actually see this news footage of him. He has like staples in the back of his head. His face is all fucked up. He's like in a sling. His face is like crooked. He said that the attack was very calculated. It was so planned out that the kidnappers barely had to speak to each other. And inside the mansion, the FBI had set up a makeshift command post. So that's how fucking rich the Hearst family was.
Shit. They were like, we have FBI contact.
Yeah, they didn't have to go to the FBI because the FBI came to them.
Yeah, wow.
So days passed and there was no word on Patty Hearst. Then a few more days pass and a nearby radio station receives a letter in the mail. It was a statement from a group who called themselves the Symbionese Liberation Army, or better known to the public at the time as the SLA. A communique is what the SLA would call these letters and audio tapes that they were sending. And it was actually the first of many. So Randy Hearst, who was Patty's own father, this one was a letter. Randy Hearst, Patty's father, had to read the communique to the media as they rolled live television broadcasts on his front lawn. So essentially, I'm not going to read it, but essentially the SLA claimed responsibility for Patty's kidnapping, and they said they wanted, from here on out, every communique that they send, they want to be heard on television, on the radio. They want it to be published verbatim in the newspapers to get the word out of anything that they wanted to say or have done. And if they failed to do so, Patty Hearst would be killed. And this first communique was closed out with an infamous line, quote, "Death to the fascist insect that preys upon the life of the people," end quote.
Ooh.
So let's put a pause on the case with Patty Hearst for a second, and we'll pick up here in a minute. But let's talk about the SLA, because this is how you're really going to understand what the fuck is going on and the fucked up shit they had done before. So I'm going to toss around a few names here and there because it's a group, but it is a small group, but everybody is pretty important. So pay attention. There's going to be a pop quiz. It's not pop quiz if I say there's going to be, but there's going to be a quiz. You get what I'm saying.
Sure.
Hope you brought your Ticonderoga number 2.
Ticonderoga.
It's a pencil.
Oh.
Okay. So it kind of somewhat starts with Joe Romero and Russ Little. So they were young students at Berkeley who were engaging in some political activism, as everybody fucking was. The two guys, like I said, they were doing what everybody else was doing, and they would volunteer and talk to prisoners at the nearby jail. As I said before, this is where the young people saw activism in the American prison system. It was pretty much the heart of where many changes in the country could be made, and the prisoners that were in there knew a lot of information because they were like, well, you know too much, and the government locked you up, so I want the knowledge that you have. Let's team up. Let's fight the fucking pigs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Joe and Russ met a few other activists as well as prisoners at the Vacaville prison. That was where everybody was being sent. One friend they made was Willie Wolf. He was not a prisoner. He was a young, rich, white kid going to school to be an archaeologist at Berkeley. After their visits, one particular prisoner stood out as a leader, and his name was Donald DeFreeze. So DeFreeze hadn't been arrested doing the political activist shit they had been doing, but they recognized him as a leader within the prison walls. He had actually been pretty much a professional criminal. He'd been in and out of jail for years, and his current reason for imprisonment in 1973 was for beating up a sex worker, stealing a check from her, and getting caught trying to cash it.
What?
So eventually, DeFreeze became close with Joe, Russ, and Willie, and then Donald DeFreeze had a plan and somehow fucking escaped from Vacaville prison. So the place he chose to go to was, the only place he thought he could get a warm welcome, which was Berkeley. He got in contact with Joe, Russ, and Willie, and they were like, hey, come hang out with us. These are our two friends, Nancy Ling Perry and Patricia Ms. Moon Soltisic. I'm going to call her Ms. Moon. That's what they called her.
Okay.
So Donald DeFries ends up moving in with the two women, not any of the men he had become friends with, so Nancy and Ms. Moon, and the three of them began plotting, and this was the beginning of the Symbionese Liberation Army, better known as the SLA. So the first word, Symbionese, was used from the symbiosis between the students and the prisoners, and they had a little flag, a little logo, if you will. It's a 7-headed cobra, and each head represented 7 values of the SLA, which essentially were copy and pasted the 7 values underlined in Kwanzaa. Very creative. So soon after, here's a couple more members who are going to enter. Bill Harris, who was cute, but he was a dick. But he was cute, but he was also a fucking asshole.
Aren't they always?
Yeah, I'm saying. So he was a young man who had already fought in Vietnam, and he had a young wife, Emily Harris, and they had a friend, Angela Atwood. They met the SLA members. So now we're up to what, like 9, I think? I don't know. I'm not keeping track. But they all became good friends. They exchanged ideas, and they knew they could come up with a plan and do something massive that would shake the grounds and break the glass ceiling. They believed that if they engaged in small scale but intense violent situations, it would set off a revolution.
So these are the people that kidnapped.
Yes, okay. This is the SLA. But what they would do and exactly how it would work was still pretty unclear to them. So just months before the kidnapping of Patty Hearst in the fall of 1973, the SLA made their first political terrorist move. So Marcus Foster was a black man, and he was the head as the superintendent at Oakland, California's public schools, and he became a very controversial person in power because he was trying to bring police into Oakland schools and introduce an identification card system for the students, basically track them. Because it was like it was Oakland, California. It was like poor and the kids were not well behaved. So he was trying to bring cops into the public school. Right. So remember that there was a racial divide with the police and the black community, and the Oakland school was a black community school. And the fear from the people was that the police were not going to protect the children that were being brought into school, but they were going to control them. Oh. So Donald DeFries, who was another black man, didn't like the police in this school. And he made the decision that if they were going to make some ground and shake the political community, Marcus Foster had to be murdered. As you do. So one night, Marcus Foster was walking from the school board building to his car. As he walked through the parking lot, Foster was shot dead at point blank range. Okay. DeFries, Ms. Moon, and Nancy were the shooters. All 3 of them, shot rounds into this guy's body.
No.
All the while, Joe Ramiro and Russ Little, remember the first 2 guys we talked about, they were the lookout, but they didn't have guns on them. So this murder made headlines, and investigators found that the bullets used to shoot Marcus Foster had cyanide-soaked tips, which is not fucking necessary at all, especially if you're going to empty out the rounds into him like they did. It was something that had never been seen before, and it became clear that this was a terrorist group's signature. They wanted notoriety, and they knew how the fuck to get it. So the SLA took credit for the murder of Marcus Foster in a published newspaper. This was their first communique ever, but they didn't really call it a communique yet. And this was also the first time anyone had ever heard of the group because this was their first fucking point of action. Right. And like I said before, essentially they were terrorists. They were proud of what they had done. They put out a press release to let everybody know. So now everybody knew, at least in California, who the SLA was, but it was a faceless group. Nobody knew who they were. They were pretty much all anonymous. So January 10th, 1974, Joe Ramiro and Russ Little, I put Litter. That's funny. He's not a cat.
Litter.
Joe Ramiro and Russ Little were driving in their van. Russ was in the driver's seat. Joe was in the passenger seat. And in the back of their van, bitch, were a bunch of flyers that they intended on handing out to recruit people to join the SLA.
Oh, so it's a cult.
It's a terrorist group. Right. Essentially, yeah. The line is fine there. But the flyers had just been printed. They literally just printed them probably at Kinko's. Right. They have a really great system there at Kinko's if you want to go ahead and head on down to your neighborhood Kinko's, and you can bring your card and bring your thumb drive. They probably had it on a floppy disk because it was 1974. Go ahead and print it out yourself. Nobody has to know your business. Anyway, sorry guys, I'm on crack. So
who isn't?
They had the flyers in their van, and it all explained the SLA's mission. Well, don't they get fucking pulled over by a cop?
Oh, shit.
So the officer takes their IDs and walks around the vehicle to the passenger side. The cop asks Joe to get out of the van. Well, Joe knows that it doesn't fucking look good with the SLA shit in the back of their van, and the killers are still unknown for the murder of Marcus Foster. All that the cops knew was that the SLA was responsible for it. So he's nervous. He fucking pulls out a gun and starts shooting at the officer, where the officer shoots back, and somehow no one is hurt. But after this, Joe and Russ are arrested, and the SLA flyers in their van link them directly to the murder of Marcus Foster. To further their seeming guilt, the gun that Joe had used on the officer was the same exact gun that Ms. Moon had used to murder Foster.
Oh, shit.
So Joe and Russ were both charged.
So it's a mess.
Yeah, so Joe and Russ were both charged for being the actual killers of Marcus Foster, but in reality, they were not. Not that what they were doing was right, but this is important because it was DeFreeze, Ms. Moon, and Nancy who pulled the triggers. And now the police were on the hunt for the others associated with Joe and Russ and the SLA. And it was all over the news. You saw their faces everywhere. They were like, these two men were captured with the SLA, the murder of Marcus. This is before the kidnapping. This is what's going to lead to. Okay. So the cops are all over the fucking area looking for everybody. So it's not looking too good for DeFreeze, Ms. Moon, and Nancy. So they decided to gather everything they had associated to the SLA, put it in the middle of their living room in their safe house, douse it in gasoline, and light the bitch up. But the garage door was closed, along with all of the windows, because it was in January. So the fire didn't have enough oxygen to ignite and ended up smoking itself out.
What an idiot.
So nothing really burned, but there was smoke. So it was literally putting up a smoke signal to the police to go check out what the fuck was, where the smoke was coming from. So instead of burning everything, they half burned some things and sent the police pretty much immediately to their house. So they escaped. They're off going somewhere else. Police get to this house that's on fire, and they find tons of ammunition, tons of guns, political literature, plans written out, and a book that had listed possible kidnap victims. At the very bottom of the list was one 19-year-old millionaire college student, Patricia Hearst.
Oh.
And the reason Patty Hearst's name ended up in there was because the members of the SLA had recently read about heiress Patty Hearst and Steve's engagement announcement in the San Fran newspaper. Don't publish that shit in the newspaper.
It doesn't say where you live?
No, it didn't say where they lived, but it gave enough information that they figured it out. Yeah. So for some reason, the police didn't warn a single person who was on this possible kidnap list, you know? And the decision to kidnap Patty was a direct result of Joe and Russ's arrest. They chose to kidnap rather to kill. They were going to use the victim as a living pawn to get what the frick they wanted. And also, Patty was a fucking symbol. She was a Caucasian heiress. She came from millions. Her family was in control of a media empire. Yeah. And Patty was innocent. So in the same way the SLA kind of viewed Joe and Russ's innocence, quote unquote innocence, you know, they would treat Patty the way the American prison system was going to treat the inmates. So then a plan was set in motion, and bitch, it was all hands on motherfucking deck. So this is what...
Yeah, I could like see them like, yeah, let's drink.
Put your hands in, everybody.
Right.
So, no, they were actually really fucking scary. So every member of the SLA was involved and armed. So this is what really happened the night of the kidnapping. Willie drove a Volkswagen. Ms. Moon was in the passenger seat. Emily's car was parked nearby, and a new female member named Camilla was driving a getaway car. So there were 3 cars in total.
And a new member.
Yes. DeFreeze, Bill, and Angela Atwood were going to be the ones who knocked on the door and entered the house. Okay? So DeFreeze and Bill stood against the house. Like, they had their backs to the house, so when they opened the door, you couldn't see them. On either side of the door, and Angela knocked on the door, and that's when DeFreeze pushed himself in, and everything was set in motion. Angela tied Patty up with a clothesline tightrope while Bill stood in plain view with his machine gun, making sure nobody would try anything smart. I literally wrote that, and I don't know why that's not me. I'm sorry, that was my sister who probably wrote that. So Steve tries to make his escape. Bill is able to grab him, bashes him in the face with his machine gun, while DeFreeze knocks him out with a blunt object. Bill picks up Patty, who is tied up on the kitchen floor, hoisting her over his shoulder in a fireman's carry. Bill takes Patty to the car, pops open the trunk, but as soon as he takes his hand off of the trunk, The spring causes the trunk to slam shut and lock.
Oh.
So Bill has to set Patty down on the ground, run to the front of the car, get the keys out of the ignition because they don't have the
What
fobs.
an idiot.
Right? So he puts her down on the ground, grabs the keys. He comes back around to open the trunk of the car, and Patty's gone. So he finds her in a corner of the garage, still tied up and blindfolded, shaking, scared, and like whimpering. He picks her up, he puts her in the trunk, closes it, and by this time, the neighbors had heard all his fucking commotion and screaming, so they come outside. And this is when DeFreeze comes out and fires off a few warning rounds, which causes the neighbors to run back in their house. And this is what Steve had heard inside the house and, duck and cover. So they drive for not only 30 seconds when they see a Berkeley police car driving towards them and pulls over the first of the 3 cars. So Bill is in the second car with the fucking heiress in the trunk, and he's gripping his gun. He's like, fuck. He's ready to have like a shootout with this police officer, because if it takes too long, other cops are going to start showing up and they're all going to be thrown in jail, and they didn't get very far. So they're sitting there, and that's when they see the lights from the first Volkswagen flick on. The cop rolls his window up and drives past. So the officer only stopped the first car because their headlights were turned off.
I need them to get it together. Every fucking plan and step of this has been fucked up in some way.
But they're lucky. Just keep mental track of how many times they could have been
Almost
caught with things like this
not.
and didn't. I'm so serious. Take a shot every time it happens. So now you're up to speed with who the SLA is and what happened the night that Patty was kidnapped. Like I say, days go by. Nobody hears anything from Patty. Police are searching. Nothing. So day 9 of Patty's capture.
Oh, shit.
She was kept in a closet, usually blindfolded. If she was not blindfolded and any SLA member entered the room, they had masks on. And that day, a radio station received a communique from the SLA, but this time it was a voice tape, and it was Patty speaking. I tried to find the tapes online because the documentary I watched played them all, but I couldn't find them without, they edited around a lot, and there's music, but her voice and how this went. Okay, so in this first one, it says, quote, "Mom, Dad, I'm okay. I'm with a combat unit that's armed with automatic weapons, and these people aren't just a bunch of nuts. They're really honest with me, but they're perfectly willing to die for what they're doing. And I want to get out of here, but the only way I'm going to do it is if we do it their way. I just hope that you'll do whatever they say, Dad, and just do it quickly. And I mean, I hope this puts you at a little bit of ease, that you know that I really am all right. I just hope I can get back to everybody really soon." End quote. So following that message was Donald DeFreeze's voice. They used code names, but I'm not going to use code names.
Did they use their regular voice? They didn't try to
They used their regular voice, but they used code names, and I'm not going to do that shit because it's going to confuse everybody.
Wait, but what?
It
What
was
if
the
someone
70s. No,
recognized their voice? Who cares?
right? He fucking escaped prison. He doesn't give a fuck at this point. So DeFreeze demands that $70 of food be given to every poor person in California over the course of a 4-week period beginning in February 19th of that week in 1974. So that's a lot of fucking money. And in response, Patty's father, Randy, gave out of pocket $2 million to get food for the needy, and the People in Need Foundation was started. On day 13, the radio station received another communique audio tape from the SLA, and it was Patty's voice again. Quote, "I am being held as a prisoner of war and nothing else. I am being treated in accordance with international codes of war. And so, I mean, Dad, you shouldn't listen or believe what anybody says about how I'm being treated." Because everybody's pretty much saying in the news that she's being treated awfully and shit.
She's being treated like a prisoner, correct.
Yes. And, okay. "And I am not left alone. I'm not just shoved off somewhere. I mean, I am fine. Also, since I am an example, it's really important that everybody understand that, I am an example and a warning. And because of this, it is very important to the SLA that I return safely. And so people should stop acting like I'm dead.
Oh, no.
Mom should get out of her black dress. That doesn't help at all."
Oh, I'm seeing the...
Yep.
The pattern start to
Continue.
pump out.
"Just take care of Steve and just hurry. Bye." So the People in Need organization was kicked into high motherfucking gear, but the governor at the time, Ronald Reagan, was not a fan. He thought that if we offered all this food up, we might as well do what any terrorist asks us to do. And that, of course, created media buzz. And then the People in Need food drive went downhill. People were rioting at these things, jumping on trucks, like Mack trucks that were filled with food that they were donating. People who were waiting in line because there was a lot of fucking people, and I guess they didn't hire enough people to feed them, so people were sick of waiting. So people are jumping on the trucks that had canvas tops, ripping open the canvas tops, and start literally just throwing food, eggs, heavy fucking food, bread, fish, anything. They're just throwing at people in the line. And these are the people who were waiting in line. This isn't the actual organization themselves. It was just mass chaos, and it was broadcast on television across the entire country. So another demand from the SLA arrived in the form of a communique audio tape at the radio station. So the voice of Donald DeFreeze chimed in, demanding an additional $4 million be donated to give food to the poor, totaling in $6 million in food. But Randy couldn't afford it. A lot of people thought he was richer than he was, but he was blowing a lot of his fucking money, because what a lot of people didn't know was that Randy didn't really get a lot of his father's money. A lot of his father's co-workers and friends got a lot of the money in a big piece out of the company that he was running. So the amount of money that he poured into the investigation and prior millions that had already been demanded, the Hearst fortune was nearly run dry. So on day 34, another communique arrived. This time, Patty sounded different. Quote, "Mom, Dad, I've been hearing reports about the food program. So far, it sounds like you and your advisors have managed to turn it into a real disaster. You said that it was out of your hands. What you should have said was that you washed your hands of it. It sounds like most of the food is low quality. No one received any beef or lamb. Anyway, it certainly didn't sound like the kind of food our family is used to eating." And then shit got more intense, because guess what the mom's gonna do? Patty's mom, Catherine Hearst, was then reappointed to fulfill a position she had previously held years earlier as the UC Board of Regents to crack down on student protesters. She had been reappointed by Ronald Reagan himself. She accepted the position. Essentially, that means that she's going to help Ryan Reynolds. Hi, Ryan!
Here we are.
I loved you in Ant-Man. Was he in Ant-Man, or was that the
never
Green
seen that
Lantern?
movie.
Fuck both those movies. Awful, awful movies.
I've only ever heard the Green Hornet.
Oh, is it the Green Hornet?
I think so.
The
Not
Green
Green
Horny.
Lantern. I think that's something like out of a movie.
I'm talking about a movie, dum-dum.
You see how he treats me?
Don't talk to them like they're here. They're hiding behind their ear pods. They're $50 ear pods. Oh, God. Okay, so essentially, she was like, I want all these riots to stop. And it was a big middle finger to the SLA. Around the same time, the SLA themselves couldn't afford to keep their safe house near Berkeley. So the 9 of them had to move from the 3-bedroom house to a studio apartment in the ghetto. There was 9 of them living in a studio apartment. Can you believe it?
Ew. Oh,
I'm saying, I lived with another person and a cat in a studio apartment. Now both of them are fucking gone.
Oh.
But this studio apartment was on the same fucking street as the FBI office they were hiding in plain sight, motherfucker. So on April 3rd, 1974, this was day 59, there was a dramatic turn. Something that no one across the country had predicted. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
The communique arrived at the police station. It was an audio tape. And again, it was our girl, our heiress, Patty.
Oh, God.
She says, "Mom, Dad, tell the poor and oppressed people of this nation what the corporate state is about to do. Warn black and poor people that they are about to be murdered down to the last man, woman, and child. Tell the people that the energy crisis is nothing more than a means to get public approval for a massive program to build nuclear power plants all across the nation. Tell the people that the entire corporate state is, with the aid of this massive power supply, about to totally automate the entire industrial state to the point that in the next 5 years, all that will be needed is a small class of button pushers. Tell the people, Dad, that the removal of expendable excess, the removal of unneeded people has already started. I have been given the choice of 1, being released in a safe area, or 2, joining the forces of the Symbionese Liberation Army and fighting for my freedom and the freedom of all oppressed people. I have chosen to stay and fight. I have been given the name Tanya after a comrade who fought alongside Chi in Bolivia. Chi was one of the nicknames of the other comrades. It is in the spirit of Tanya that I say, Patria o muerte venceremos. which is Spanish for fatherland or death we shall overcome. And it's actually a tagline from Fidel Castro. So
Is she okay?
after 59 days of being held hostage, the heiress joined the kidnappers. Her blindfold was removed and she saw the faces of the SLA members for the first fucking time. And the media, they went nuts.
I'm sure.
No one knew what to think. Most people thought that perhaps the SLA was more of a Manson family type cult of terrorists rather than a non-conforming radicalists, but nobody knew what the fuck to make out of it. Over the course of 59 days, her demeanor had changed. And then, on April 15th, 1974, 5 people entered the Hibernia Bank in a calm and totally organized manner. Each person was carrying an automatic rifle on their hips in military style. So the police were called and quickly they created an 11 by 12 block perimeter. They robbed the bank and they left after only 5 minutes with $10,960. On their way out, the robbers shot Eugene Brennan, who lived in the area, and Peter Markoff, a liquor store owner who was entering the bank. They got in a getaway car and drove off. Can you guess who these people were? So when the bank's surveillance footage was given to the police, it was clear that one of the unmasked women was wearing a dark colored wig and aiming a machine gun at multiple innocent
Patty.
people. It was Patricia Hearst.
Patty.
In response, Patty's parents appeared on television in their front yard and it was swarmed once again. Catherine said that Patty was kidnapped. She is clearly under mind control of terrorists and she needs our help. So Patty sent another tape recording. So now she's literally fighting with her mom, but making it very public. These should be handled in text messages.
Okay.
Patricia. Patty sent another tape recording to the radio station claiming that she chose to rob the bank with them and none of the SLA members that she called her comrades had ever pointed guns at her. This is when Patty became a massive symbol of the girl who turned her back on her own privilege and spiraled out of control with a terrorist group. So a lot of Berkeley students posted photos of Patty wearing a wig, holding a machine gun with the words, "We love you, Tanya," on the side. They were just all over the place. People were living for this shit. But while this was going on, the zebra killings were also occurring in San Francisco. So essentially black Muslim men were murdering white men. So to counter this, police were authorized to literally pat down any black person who was walking on the street ever.
Fucked.
Yeah. So... And they could also take them in if they had anything that was somewhat incriminating on them.
Changed.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? It's crazy. I'm so glad we've come a long way.
Right.
So this meant that Donald DeFreeze, who was the only black member of the SLA, he was also essentially their leader. He couldn't leave the apartment and they weren't with that shit. So the SLA members moved again. They're going to hop all over the fucking place. You're going to be amazed. Ooh, I can't wait till the one part that I get to that you're going to be like, oh shit. And I'm going to be like, yes, bitch. We're getting there. Hold on.
I cannot wait.
I think it's on page 10. It's coming up. So the SLA members.
Only 5 more to go.
No, we're on page. We're on page 10. We're on page 10.
Only 8 more pages.
Here we go. No, my last page is full of fun facts. So they moved from San Fran to LA. Shortly after they left their apartment, it was swarmed by the FBI, who felt fucking stupid for not knowing that the terrorist group was living down the street from them. But before they moved, one member did write something on the wall. It read, "Patria o muerte venceremos." And it was signed, Tanya. So then the SLA member, so keep in mind that they're moving, but they seem to be moving at the right time because the same days as they're on the run, I mean, they are making stupid mistakes, but the FBI and the police who are tracking them are literally like closing in on them by the day. So then the SLA members drive in 3 separate cars to get to LA. The cops are still after them. No one is fucking safe. So in one car, Bill Harris, Emily Harris, and Patty, aka Tanya, are in this Volkswagen bus together. They find a place and one of them gets a parking ticket for illegally parking on the same block as their secret location. Remember this part. Parking ticket.
Secret location.
On the same block as a secret location. So again, the next day or a couple days later, Patty, Emily, and Bill are in the Volkswagen van together again, and they take the parking ticket and they're like, we don't want this linked to any, like an unpaid parking ticket linked to anybody with this license plate. They're not trying to risk anything. So they get in disguise and they plan on going to pay for this parking ticket, right? So while on their way to pay for it, they stop at a sporting goods store called Mel's to get some supplies. This was a big fucking mistake. So Patty stayed in the car with the keys in the ignition. Remember that also. Patty stayed in the car, keys in the ignition, while Bill and Emily went inside. So inside the store, Bill saw a shotgun shell bandolier, and he thought it would be useful. So he took it off the rack and continued shopping. Then he realized, oh fuck, I should probably continue to stay low profile. And he's like, if I buy this, I don't want any trouble.
Right.
So he puts it back, but he puts it on a different shelf. This bandolier is now on a different shelf. He goes to the register, he paid for his things, and he left with Emily. So as they're walking out the door, the cashier yelled out for him and ordered him to get back in the store. So this is where there's like a little bit of a miscommunication about what's going on, because the cashier didn't see Bill put the bandolier back and he thought he was stealing it. Bill thought that the cashier recognized him as somebody from the SLA in the bank robbery.
Oh my God, did he tell him so?
So Bill was like, gotta go, gotta blast. So he starts to fucking dart it. And that's when the cashier and a store manager jump out and grab him and Emily.
See?
The manager even handcuffed one of Bill's wrists. So our pretty little heiress, Patty, wearing her disguise in the Volkswagen across the street, saw this. Bill expected her to dart the fuck out of there. If anything, she didn't have anything to do. She didn't have to do anything, but she didn't. Patricia Hearst grabbed her semi-automatic and unloaded a few rounds, nearly killing the people. Once the magazine was emptied, she grabbed the next machine gun and fired it too. And it was enough to scare off the sporting goods employees back into the store. Then Emily and Bill got into the car, and they got away unharmed once again.
What's wrong with her?
So they haul ass in their Volkswagen bus, but this shit is not working. So they round the block. They see a nice green Pontiac and somebody's in it. So Bill hops out of the car. He aims a gun at the man in the driver's seat. And he's like, dude, I hate to fucking do this, but I need your car. So the dude's like, hey, okay, man, take it easy, bro. Take it easy, bro. And the three of them hop in the car and they speed off. Literally about a block later, the car fucking breaks down. Right? Like, you can't make this shit up, people. So then there's two men standing outside nearby. Bill goes up to them and tells him that, he's like, hey, I need your car. He says, I'm in the SLA, and I ordered those rich people to put the food drive situation together. So then the men were like, hey, cool shit. You're scary as fuck. Here's the keys. Bye. So they steal this other car. This is the second car that they're stealing. Later that day,
like idiots,
right?
Because they're getting caught. It seems like they're starting to go down to the wire where they're doing some stupid shit.
Right, they're leaving a breadcrumb trail.
And this fucking Patricia's blowing people up.
Right, girl, you couldn't even put a fucking
so
silencer.
Far gone.
Not even a fucking silencer on that shit. So later that day, the three knew that they had to ditch the stolen car because it was easily tracked to the sporting goods store shootout, like you were saying. So in a little suburban neighborhood, they saw a green van, kind of like an Astro van, and it was for sale. So Emily knocked on the door of the house that it was parked in front of, and she asked the 18-year-old high school senior boy who answered the door if she could test drive it. So the boy's like, yeah, sure. Gave her the keys. Emily hops in the driver's seat. He hops in the passenger seat, and that's when Emily turns to him and in the creepiest way says, do you mind if my friends join? And that's when Bill and Patty show up with their fucking machine guns, say they're in the SLA, and they don't give him a choice. They get in the back of the fucking van. So the boy's all scared, and he's like, oh man, the kids in homeroom aren't going to believe this. Why are you doing all of this? And Patty's like, she pretty much explained, gave him the rundown. So they didn't steal the van. They bought the van from the kid.
Oh, look at that.
The kid actually sawed off the handcuff that was still on Bill, because remember he got handcuffed at the store.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He sawed that thing off, and they were like, hey dude, good luck at your baseball game tomorrow. Literally, he had a baseball game tomorrow. They were like, good luck, hope you get an RBI and a touchdown, my dude. And he's like, cool, thanks guys. I appreciate your business. Leave me a good Yelp review, I guess.
Sawed off the handcuff.
Right. So that's when, oh bitch, they realized they had made a huge mistake, and they left that parking ticket in the Volkswagen van when they abandoned it near the sporting goods store.
Idiots.
And that ticket would lead police literally to the block where the SLA's new secret hideout was. So they had to move again. So they move to a new place. ready for this shit to hit the fan again.
Yeah.
May 17th, 1974 in Compton, California. Police get a tip on where a group of people with a bunch of guns are staying. So they travel to this house and they order those inside to come out. So out comes one man with a child, and the man tells the police that they live inside alone. But the child's like, "Nah, daddy, you didn't tell them about the bunch of white people in there with the one black man inside.
It's always
and
the
they have a
fucking
bunch of
kids."
guns." And he's like, "Stanley, what did I tell you?" Stanley, yell Nats. That's from Holes, my dudes. So police call out again. They're just like, "Hey, if anybody's in there, come out. This is the police and the FBI. What to do?" And instead of coming out, bullets came out from the inside of the house to the officers.
They can't do nothing, chill.
Well, the police call for backup, and so begins the largest shootout in California's history. In this small neighborhood in Compton,
Story.
bullets are being fired back and forth between police and the people in this house. A few officers throw smoke bombs and tear gas inside, and that's when they begin to see smoke billowing from inside. So the small amount of smoke then turns into a massive cloud of black smoke. What had actually happened was a tear gas bomb landed near a leaking gas can, which caused a massive fire. So very quickly, the house was engulfed in flames, but the shots still rang out. The bullets were coming from the crawl space because the people inside had torn up the floorboards and crawled down below the house and continued to shoot while this house is literally fucking blazing. Now, something else that was happening while this was going on was live television wasn't really a thing. Think about when this kind of shit happens, they film on film. They have to go back to the studio, process the film essentially, and then hope to God that everything's not overexposed.
Right.
Well, when this was happening, this shootout was going on, this was the very first time that there was actually live footage of something really happening on the news with a shootout like this. They used like a little mini tape recorder type deal. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was like, this was breaking grounds in the fact that it was live when this was happening. So like people were already shook at that and they were like, "Oh my God, it's a fucking shootout. What the fuck's going on?" They were like, "It's the SLA," and everybody's like, "Oh my God, the heiress is in this house. It's burning down. WTF." At one point, a female escaped the back of the burning house and she was shot dead. Another female was climbing out of the crawl space and she was also shot dead, then dragged back into the house from someone inside. So this was, as I said, the longest, most intense shootout the LAPD had ever seen. The police had fired over 5,300 rounds. The SLA had fired over 4,000 rounds. There were 83 tear gas canisters used in one house. 18 weapons found inside the house. 2 unexploded pipe bombs. 23 homes were damaged on the block. But
23? Wow.
no innocent bystanders nor police were shot or injured. 5 charred bodies were discovered inside and identified as the SLA members.
Oh, shit.
Nancy Ling Perry, Camilla Hall, Ms. Moon Solstek, Willie Wolf, and Donald DeFries. But no Patty Hearst. The following day, a 6th body was found in the house's burned remains. The whole country stopped what they were doing in awe that the heiress who turned her back on her fortune was burned to death during a shootout in Compton, California. The body was positively identified as
Patty Hearst.
Angela Atwood.
Oh, back.
Patty Hearst was still nowhere to be found. So now there was a manhunt out for the 3 last remaining people. It was the trio who had the Volkswagen van. Bill Harris, Emily Harris, and Patricia Hearst, who were at large, armed, and labeled dangerous. Well, what happened was the trio, like I said, was Emily, Bill, and Patty, never ended up going to that house in Compton. They were on their way, they lost contact, and ended up staying at a motel in Disneyland. So from this Disneyland motel, they watched on TV as the shootout happened, and they knew that everyone, all of their comrades, had died inside. Essentially, it was their fault for the sporting goods shootout and the parking ticket that they had left behind. Ooh. So on Memorial Day weekend, they got a car and they drove from California to New York City. They were like, it's Memorial Day weekend. It's going to be so hard to fucking track. Everybody's going to be traveling. We're going to be stuck in traffic. But you know what? We're going to listen to Esoteric Oddities podcast.
Love that.
They're a great podcast. You can go ahead and listen to them and give them 5-star rating on iTunes
I love
or
how you
wherever
did
you listen
that.
to it. Thank you guys so much. So they get to New York and make their final communique. 104 days after Patty's kidnapping, she voices a tape. Greetings to the people. This is Tanya. I want to talk about the way our 6 murdered comrades. I want to talk about the way I knew our 6 murdered comrades because the fascist pig media have of course been painting a typically distorted picture of the beautiful brothers and sisters. Of course, when she's talking about them, she's going to be using their code names, but I figured out whose code name was actually who, so I'm going to be using their real names.
Look at that. You're so smart,
I know. Donald DeFreeze was in a race with the time, believing that every minute must have been another step forward in the fight to save the children. Angela Atwood was beautiful. She taught me how to fight the enemy within through her constant struggle with conditioning. Camilla Hall crouched low with her ass to the ground. She practiced until her shotgun was an extension of her right and left arms. Patricia Ms. Moon, female gorilla, perfect love and perfect hate reflected in stone-cold eyes. Nancy Ling Perry taught me how to shoot first and make sure the pig was dead before splitting. She was wise and bad. Willie Wolfe was the gentlest, most beautiful man I've ever known. He taught me that truth was as I learned it from the beautiful brothers in California's concentration camps. Neither Willie or I ever loved an individual the way we loved each other. Our relationship foundation was our commitment to the struggle and our love for the people. I died in that fire on 54th Street, but out of the ashes I was reborn. I know what I have to do. End quote. How fucking dramatic is that? Patty, girl, she was not.
I love this.
104 days ago, she had no idea what any political thing was. Right? She was just trying to do her damn homework. So with no plan and no options, they end up settling in. Do you want to guess?
Is it money?
No. It's a location that they're about to settle in.
Is it in California?
Nope. Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Shut the fuck up.
I will not.
I can't.
And this is where a bunch of other people, I'm going to leave them nameless except for one because it's going to get really confusing for y'all to keep track of it. This is when another criminal enters the picture, Wendy Yoshimura. And she was a Japanese woman whose boyfriend was arrested for a bombing and she was being charged as an accomplice. She fled. Police were out to find her. She ended up at the same house in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Stop.
So they stay there. They're trying to figure their fucking shit out. They meet other people. Patty somehow ends up in Las Vegas. Then she hitches a ride to Sacramento. She's a fucking pinball. And the country are those the little pringy things that they fucking bounce the pinball around. I'm telling you, she's all over the fucking place. April 24th, 1979, Patty, Bill, and Emily made their new friends and rob another fucking bank.
Look at that.
Okay, so this is trigger warning for any type of violence because this one's actually pretty gnarly in the worst way possible. No. So by this time, Emily had taken the safety off of her gun and mistakenly shot a woman in the bank. The rest of the members pistol whipped innocent people, cocking their shotguns against the others' heads until it bled, and they beat a pregnant woman until she lost her baby on the floor.
Okay, I feel like that's not necessary.
None of this is. It was brutal, but they got away again. In the bank, the staff... Oh, this is fucked up. In the bank, the staff and friendly, horrified survivors gathered around the woman who had been shot. She was a stranger to all of them, but they acted quickly, but not quick enough. The woman was a mother of 4 and the wife of a doctor and died from her wounds on the bank floor. She was rushed to the hospital where her husband was in shock to find his wife was the dead patient he was supposed to resuscitate.
No.
He was the doctor working that day. They brought her in. She was dead. But that carnage was not enough. Also, gonna say, this was not the SLA anymore. This was a whole new... They claim the SLA died the day of the shootout in Compton. That this was just the same 3 original people with this new group. They were just terrorists.
In Scranton, Pennsylvania.
No, well, yes. No, now they're back in California. Oh. I'm telling you, they're ping-ponging all around the fucking place. They had no real agenda other than to raise hell and fuck up the police because the police fucked up their SLA. So on August 7th, 1975, Patty walks herself, not even in disguise, to a local police station and places a pipe bomb under a police car. It never went off. August 20th, 1975, Patty helped plan a double bombing, which went off, but nobody was hurt. Then they took to LA. Their only objective again was to kill the cops because the cops killed the SLA comrades. At an IHOP in Hollywood, a pipe bomb was set under a police car and it was set to go off when the car started to go in motion. So they wanted to make sure it didn't just go off. They wanted to make sure it went off when somebody was driving it. So somebody was fucking in it.
Right.
But it didn't go off. All police units were ordered to look under the cars. They found that each pipe bomb had contained hundreds of nails that measured 3 inches long. So think about if a pipe bomb goes off and there's nails inside of it, anybody's going to fucking die from the force of a bomb. Those nails are just going to go fucking through people like bullets, killing innocent people. So that's kind of like beyond just the police.
What they wanted to do.
Yeah, this is what y'all are doing.
Yeah. They lost their, like...
Their screws are loose because they're in the pipe bombs.
Yeah,
so in late August of 1975 in Pacifica, California, Bill was at a laundromat when a white guy enters dressed in a suit. He knew this was way the fuck out of the ordinary because at the time, Pacifica was all working class, mostly Hispanic people. And Bill was basically the only white man in the area. So to see a white man in a suit didn't mean anything good, especially not for them. So the man in the suit didn't say anything, but he walked over to a phone inside the laundromat. So Bill was like, abort mission. He leaves his fucking laundry. He's like, I don't care if they're my crotchless panties in there, my jock straps. I don't give a fuck.
Going.
He goes home. He tells Emily. They pack their shit up. They're ready to leave. They're like, tomorrow we're fucking leaving because I don't know what's going on. The next morning, they exit their house, ready to leave, and the local police jump out of fucking nowhere and arrest Bill and Emily Harris.
Look at that.
On September 18th, 1975, after more than 19 months with the SLA, the FBI finds Patty Hearst inside a house.
Ooh.
She is sitting at a table drinking tea with Wendy Yashimura. They announce that they are the FBI, to which Patty responds by running to the bedroom with all the guns and arms herself. So they put a gun to Wendy's head and they were just like, we will kill her if you don't come back. And by this time, Patty and Wendy had come really close. So Patty put her hands up, pissed her pants, was arrested and thrown in jail.
What?
So while being booked, Patty listed her occupation as urban guerrilla and asked her attorney to relay the following message. Tell everybody that I'm smiling and that I am free and strong, and I send my greetings and love to all the sisters and brothers out there. At the time of her arrest, Patty Hearst's weight had dropped to 87 pounds. That's all we need to do. The quickest weight loss, you guys. Join a terrorist group and just raise I'm kidding, you guys. Please don't give us bad reviews. That was a poor joke. So she was actually examined by a doctor in October of 1975, which was a couple months after she was arrested. And the doctor said she had a low IQ and she was a low effective zombie, essentially.
What?
Shortly after her arrest, she showed signs of trauma. Her IQ was measured at 120, whereas it was previously 130. There were huge gaps in her memory regarding her life before she identified herself, as Tanya. There was all this hell was going on during the court case. I think it was her second or third lawyer ended up being a really famous dude that a lot of people went to go see instead of her. Like, that's how big this case was getting.
Shit.
And on March 20th, 1976, Patty Hearst was convicted of bank robbery using a firearm during the commission of a felony. She was given the maximum sentence possible of 35 years imprisonment, pending a reduction at final sentencing, which Judge Carter declined to specify, which was the judge at the time. Mm-hmm. While in prison, Patty Hearst suffered a collapsed lung and she underwent emergency surgery. So because this happened, she couldn't testify against Bill and Emily Harris on the 11 state charges, including robbery, kidnapping, and assault, all of this shit. So basically, Bill and Emily were kind of going to get off well because of this shit that was happening. Patty Hearst was being held in solitary confinement for security reasons. Basically, she was high profile. It was like she was super popular. They were like, girl, you sitting in the shoebox by your damn self. Right. She was granted bail for an appeal hearing in November 1976. Blase blah, but her bail was revoked in May 1978 when appeals failed and the Supreme Court declined to hear her case. And then at this point, the prison took no special security measures for Patty until she found a dead rat on her bunk the day Bill and Emily Harris were arraigned for her abduction. So Bill and Emily Harris were convicted on simple kidnapping charge, as opposed to a more serious kidnapping for ransom or kidnapping with bodily injury. They were released after serving a total of 8 years each.
8 years?
Yeah. Oh. So they, what the fuck here? Right. President Carter commuted Patty Hearst's federal sentence to 22 months served, freeing the young girl 8 months before she was even eligible for her first parole hearing. And She recovered full civil rights when President Bill Clinton granted her a pardon in January 20th of 2001, which was his last day in office. So get ready for some irony. 2 months after her release from prison, Patty Hearst married Bernard Lee Shaw, a policeman who she was so fucking out to get, who was part of her security, while she was on bail. It was a policeman that she had.
Oh, that's sad that she didn't get back with Steve.
Oh, this poor man in the documentary. My heart breaks for him. Because now he's an old man. He is in his late 70s, I think. And he's just like, she wanted nothing to do with me. I wanted to rescue her and all this shit. And she just didn't want any of it. So the two of them, they had 2 children. Patty Hearst became involved with a foundation helping children surviving AIDS and is active in other charities and fundraising activities. She has appeared in several feature films from my favorite fucking director, John Waters. She was in Cry Baby with Johnny Depp. She was in Serial Mom. She was in Pecker with
Patty? Why?
With Christina Ricci. She was in A Dirty Shame and Cecil B. Demented. She was in all of these movies as a fucking actress after all this shit fucking went down. How insane is that?
That just goes to show you could do anything and be an actress.
Right? Especially if you're rich and white. And that is the bizarre tale of Patty Hearst.
That's so crazy. I did not think Scranton, Pennsylvania. I was like, the White House?
Oh my God. So yeah, that shit was fucking crazy. Do you want to hear my fun fact?
Yeah, go.
So my fun fact is that Patty Hearst has participated with her dogs in dog shows.
I cannot.
Her Shih Tzu Rocket won the toy category at the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show at Madison Square Garden on February 16, 2015. At the 2017 show, Patty's French Bulldog, Tuggy, won Best of Breed, and Ruby won Best of Opposite Sex. Gotta love that recent news.
What the fuck? White people are so weird.
She still looks pretty good.
That's good.
If her Wikipedia page, they gave her a picture of her from 2010, and I was like, girl, they did you a favor. You look good.
Right. Okay, so my fun fact is Halley's Comet won't orbit past Earth again until 2061. So that means we'll all be dead and we won't be able to see it.
Haley. Oh my God, Haley. You mean Haley Williams?
Yeah, I swear.
Can we pretend that airplanes in the night sky are like comets that we're not going to see ever again?
Yeah, that's true.
That's sad.
My tweet of the week is from @Hestwick, and he says, "Can we please stop this old entire preaching that every negative individual that we meet in life is our reflection? Some people are just evil and overly toxic and bad to be around, and it could have absolutely nothing to do with who you are as a person."
Preach. Love that. My tweet of the week is actually a retweet. So the first tweet comes from Robert Irwin. He took a selfie of himself with a pug. And it says, "This pug is just too cool." And then his mom, Terry Irwin, who we all fucking love. You should really follow them on Twitter. Okay. She retweets and she says, too cool for school. Not really, at Robert Irwin. You actually still have to go to school. How fucking cute are they? We are blessed to have people like them in our fucking lives. And we are blessed to have listeners like you.
Y'all. Thanks for missing us so much.
We've been breaking up, breaking down.
Me and Jonathan aren't breaking up.
No, never. I love you too much.
I love him.
And I also didn't get a prenup, so we need to get on that.
Yeah, sorry. So I own your money and your dick.
Oh, I love that. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you're not already, go ahead and follow us on our social media, which should be back and thriving. It's been sitting there rotting in the corpsey abyss of Instagram. But
sorry. I could have honestly just hopped on and posted pictures, and I didn't either.
No, we needed to do it. We needed to step away. Thank you guys for being patient, and we love you so much. Give us a rating. Thank you to all the new ratings. We really appreciate it. I hadn't checked in a minute, and we have some new ratings, and y'all are so fucking nice.
We're going to read them right now. Bye.
Bye, guys.